Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Becca Jo, aka the Makeup Tax Lady, and today we are going through our month of May BYOP, Build Your Own Palette. This is a series that Kelly from Keep Beauty Real and Kara from Beauty in the Frizz like to host every month. I'm kind of hit or miss or when I've been able to participate and upload, but the idea is when you can join, you can create your own palette, and we all like to go based on one theme for the month. The only rule with creating your own palette is that it's 10 shades. So I will have Kara and Kelly's channels, their videos linked down below in the description box. I've also participated a few times in the past, so I'll have those videos of mine linked below as well. I would love to invite you, if you like to create your own palette of any capacity, feel free to create it and then share it with us, whether it's just a DM on Instagram, commenting in the comments on a video, or if you like to create videos, create Instagram posts. We'd love to see your thoughts, your inspiration. So let's get on into it. I'd love to show you my May BYOP, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What kind of colors, shades, matte versus shimmer textures would you go for in your palette? And we're going to talk through my choices. I'll show you my palette here in just a minute. Okay, so first things first, this is a day's worth of makeup, so it's been mostly fading off. I added a little bit of new lip gloss and a little bit of blush, and I will take off the eyeshadow so that we can do some BYOP here in just a minute. But I wanted to talk you through the palette that I made, kind of my inspirations, and then we'll work on some looks after that. So the theme for the May BYOP is travel or vacation. And I think these inspirations are meant to be taken as strictly or loosely as you'd like to. So it could be anything from this is a palette I would take on vacation to this is my favorite vacation destination and I want a palette that kind of reflects those colors. So when creating my own palette, I definitely had both of those items in mind. When I travel, whether for work or, personal family vacation, I like to pack a small palette, a small amount of eyeshadows. As much as I love eyeshadows, that's not usually what I'm focused on or what I'm thinking about when I'm away from home. So I really like to have the staples, and I really like to have something that I don't have to think too hard about while I'm out and about. That's not to say I don't take the opportunity when it's presented to me to glam up a little bit while on vacation, but I definitely enjoy a simpler routine, makeup routine, when I'm away from home. I also know that just the summer time that's coming up is a big vacation time for everyone. With that in mind, I was thinking about, what are some things that I would take on vacation as far as eyeshadow goes, and what kind of places do I tend to go to on vacation? So for me personally, I tend to go to warmer destinations, more tropical destinations. I've been to Florida multiple times. Okay, I think you get the idea. I like to go somewhere warm, but I also like basics and staples while I'm on vacation. I also will let you know, I have been into matte shadows, like just really loving matte shadows, or kind of like the shadow that I have on today. I don't know if you can see it. This is a single eyeshadow from Ensley Rain. It's not part of my BYOP, but I like the multi-chrome, the sheer with a flash of some color to it, shimmer, dimensional shade. Those are the textures I've been reaching for the most. Nothing wrong with a subtler shimmer or a really metallic shade. And I like those in their right stance too, but what I've been reaching for most lately is matte shadows, multi-chrome, or sheer shades. So that said, here is my May BYOP. Hopefully you are seeing the vibrancy and the shift of these shades. I am so happy with this palette. I've told you a little bit about all of my inspirations. Also the new Simply Posh Cosmetics palette, I believe it's called the Coastal palette. I'll pop up a picture. That palette also has kind of inspired this, that it's got a mix of neutrals, but it's got some like seafoam green in there. It's got a few different undertones with its neutral shades, but there's still some pops of colors. So those types of things have all landed me toward this BYOP. Some of my favorite colors all year round, but especially in the summertime, tend to be like a teal and a coral. I'll pop up a couple pictures. I have a mug that has these colors on it. That's my everyday go-to coffee mug. I also have a blouse that's one of my favorite blouses that has these teal turquoise shades in it with maybe some pops of coral. So again, those are all things that I love, that inspire me, that give me that tropical feel, if you will. I've also been into, like, I enjoy when I can do simple, as in few steps, few number of shades look in a palette. And I think this palette offers that you can grab just a couple of the shades in here, you know, 1, 2, 3 if you want, or you can do something a little more dramatic, a little more glammed up. So we've got mostly neutrals here on the side, and then we've got this deep, beautiful foresty green, and then these pops of colors. And then if I choose to put on a shimmer shade, we've got these 3 beautiful shifty shades here in the middle that will just feed that craving of mine. A lot of these look like mid-tone or deeper mattes, and I've been enjoying, instead of doing a shade in the crease, like a matte all over the crease, to just focus a shade on the outer corner and then, without picking up any extra product, blend it through the crease. I think that works really well with a more mid-tone shade because it's not as heavy on my crease, but it still provides some color and it still provides some shape to my eye. Let's do some swatches. So I'm going to start by going down this row. Here are the first 3 shades. On the first finger here, which was the top of the palette down, we've got Sydney Grace Ivy League, Sydney Grace Vanguard, and Sydney Grace Chocolate Kiss. So here are those 3 shades, again, all Sydney Grace, Ivy League, Vanguard, and Chocolate Kiss. This is 2 layers on each shade. They could definitely be built up more than that. Sydney Grace's matte formula is superb, or they can be sheared out just a little bit more. And I got a little bit of blue mixed into this swatch, so just ignore that. I think you can really see here some of the different tones that we've got. Chocolate Kiss is definitely more red, a warmer color, and Ivy League is definitely more gray green, like just a little bit cooler. And then Vanguard here in the middle also has a little bit of a green to it, but it's a good solid neutral brown. Okay, here are the next 3 shades. From the top, we have Glaminatrix Single in the shade Bloodstone. We have Glaminatrix the shade Fennel from the Sugar and Spice palette. And this is Divina Fur Gaze, which is from the Fantasia palette. So you can see just how pretty and shifty those are. Here are the swatches of these 3 beautiful shades. So again, we have Glaminatrix Single in the shade Bloodstone, Glaminatrix Fennel from the Sugar and Spice palette, Divina Cosmetics Fur Gaze from the Fantasia collection. Hopefully you're seeing the sparkle and shift on all 3 of those shades. One of the things that I love about this like shifty multi-chrome is that they can transform with any mattes you use them with. So for that reason, they're so flexible, they're so suitable for whatever you're wearing that day, however you want to treat them. So for example, the single shadow that I have on my eyes today, which again is not part of the palette, I'm not wearing any mattes with it. I just wanted a very simple, very subtle wash of color over the eyes, and it's just enough sparkly, it's just enough color, but it's very understated, which is what I wanted. So I love that you can play with multi-chromes in that way. That's something that a year ago me would have said, no thank you, I don't want to deal with multi-chromes, but I have learned the types of multi-chromes that I like, which is not so much the thick and intense black-based, gray-based multi-chromes sometimes, but especially these shades that are more sheer on the base or have like a flesh toned color in the base, which these 2 definitely have more of that flesh toned color in the base. The one in the middle here probably has a gray base or maybe kind of a gray blue base, but they all have this beautiful texture, a little bit of sparkle that is so pretty and so flattering. Okay, next row. Here are the next 3 shades in my BYOP. The first shade is Glaminatrix from the Pretty in Pastels palette. This is the shade Restful. Next, from the Glaminatrix Glamorous palette, this is the shade Luxe. And the shade over here on my ring finger is from Menagerie. This is called Ink Floyd. I think it's from one of their palettes, but I don't have the palette, I just have the single shadow. Okay, so here we have added the next 3 shades. So again, this is Glaminatrix Restful from the Pretty in Pastels palette, Glaminatrix Luxe from the Glamorous palette, and Menagerie Ink Floyd. Hopefully you're seeing how we can use these different shades together to create all sorts of different looks. And last but not least, we have this beautiful matte shade from Sydney Grace called Honeydew. So I added the shade Honeydew here on the end, and here is our entire May BYOP for travel/vacation. And I am so very excited to put these beautiful colors on my eyes. Let me go wash off this shadow and we'll do 2 different looks. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just used a little makeup cleanser on my eyes and then added just a little bit of concealer and powder back to my eyes, and then blush because I am a blush goes last and everywhere kind of person. So I added it just to make sure we had a cohesive line, you know, from the corner of my eye out. Now I am just adding my About Face eyeshadow primer. And I am ready to get into these 2 looks. So I definitely think I want to do the teals on one eye, and then the other eye I want to go more neutral, but maybe use the pop of coral somewhere. Okay, so I want to start with this top shade up here, which I believe was Ivy League. I'll have it across the screen which shades that I'm using as I go. And I'm gonna put that on this eye. I don't know about for you, but like this is a one and done for me. Like this looks so nice. It's a little bit of color, a little bit of dimension to my eye, add some mascara. I can add a liner or like use one of these shadows as a liner, but I think this just looks so nice, so pretty, all on its own. I could totally see myself doing that, but that's not what we're doing today because we're using the palette. So I'm gonna go back in with the next shade. Okay, and there's a beautiful 2 and done look, like 2 shadows. Added just a little bit more dimension to the outer corner. That looks so pretty. That looks so pretty. So neutral, like the same color as my hair, apparently, at least it looks like here. I like it. But we are not done, we're going in with more. Once again, the 3rd matte shade really just added a splash more dimension, added a little more warmth to the look. That's nice. It's nice. That's a good vacation look for me right there. So fun, a little pop of color on the under eye. Now let's go in for some shimmers. Okay, here is the look. I went in and added some mascara. I'm wearing my Smashbox Superfan mascara, and I'm a fan of it. I don't know if I'm a super fan, but I have repurchased it, so I'm that much of a fan. I want to go back into my palette and use the shade Ink Floyd with a fluffier brush and just add that as a little bit of blush to my cheek. I think that'll be a really nice tie-in. And I am a big fan of using eyeshadow as blush or highlighter or whatever else you're using it for. I think part of the key to doing so, especially if you're using indie eyeshadows that are very pigmented, is to use a soft hand and a fluffier brush. So I just dipped once in the pan. I think that will be enough because this is bright. We're about to find out if it was a bad idea. I'm gonna tap off the brush. Okay, now there's much less left on the brush. Just gonna add it, oh yeah. I don't know if you'll see that well on camera, but that added just enough of a bright little pop to the cheek on top of the blush that I already had, but a nice tie-in. Okay, so here is the final look number 1. Okay, so this is a super fun look that totally gives me vacation vibes. I don't know what it was specifically, but I saw the shade Fennel and I was like, that needs to be part of this palette. I think because I think of tropical and I think of gold, but I'm not like a super yellow gold kind of person. And I think this shade is so perfect of a gold shade. And like we saw in the swatches, it kind of has that more gray base. So I really think it's a softer gold or a more neutral gold maybe. And I think it's one that because of its cooler toned base, it can kind of go warmer or cooler. But I think it's such a pretty shade, such a pretty pop of color. It's got some sparkle. You can wear it, of course, if you can wear it more neutral. You could add it to something to just provide that gold pop. So I am very happy with the way our first eye turned out. Very happy. Okay, now I want to get into these blues and greens. Let's go to the other eye. This shade Honeydew is so pretty because it's a green, but it's a soft green, and it's got like a little splash of grunginess to it without being a dark shade. And I think it's so pretty to go with so many different looks. Sydney Grace created the bundle, I'm not sure if it's still available on their site, of the In Mel's Memory bundle, where Mel created kind of like a what I wish Natasha Denona had done with her palette. I believe that's where this single shade came from. It's also just available as a single on Sydney Grace's website, but it is really such a pretty shade. It's also similar to the shade that Mel Thompson did put in her Sydney Grace palette, the Tiny Marvels palette. This shade I think has a little more grunginess to it, whether it's a blue or a gray, but just a tad bit more of an earthy color than the one in Tiny Marvels. I also think Honeydew next to Luxe are like this beautiful combination, because Luxe can be a bright shade, but paired with a slightly more grungy shade, it tones it down just a little bit, brings it to earth just a little bit more. Also, if you saw, I went back in because my eye's a little bit watery just from having just washed it. Everything's fine. So if you see any patchiness, know that it's my eyes, not the eyeshadows. So I just went in with a tiny splash of Honeydew, that first kind of grungy shade, on my lower lash line. Okay, so despite my watery eye, I think I was able to get a little bit of a wing, get the shape more or less that I was going for. I've been putting Honeydew right here in the little water duct in my eye, and it's not really sticking, so we'll just use our imagination for that part. Now to go in with the shimmer. Mascara is still drying, but here is the final look number 2. And again, look number 1. I haven't added any more blush or highlighter or anything to this side. I think you totally could. I kind of like it the way that it is, with a bolder, more colorful eye and then a little more understated on the cheek. But I love both of these looks so much. I'm sitting here playing with this palette, well, standing here playing with this palette, thinking about just how much I love this color story, how beautifully reflective of where I'm at in my makeup right now with my eyeshadows, and I'm keeping this palette kept together for quite some time. Let me know, do you prefer look number 1, look number 2? Either way, I would really encourage you to pull out your own eyeshadows, pull out your own makeup. I know that new makeup is fun and exciting, and I like to talk about new makeup and play with new makeup, new to me, whether it's new to the industry or not. But there's something to be said to just digging your hands in and seeing all of the beautiful makeup that you probably already own. And this is not a palette that anyone else has created. These are, of course, all shades and textures that brands have put together, but this is a color story that I created. So I think there's a little bit of pride to be taken in that too. And while there are beautiful like pre-made palettes out there and color stories, you know, I think this gives us an opportunity to express what it is that we want, what it is that we're looking for, what, you know, inspires us and all of that. And this palette is definitely inspiring to me. So I would love to hear your thoughts on my palette, on what your palette does or would look like if you choose to participate. Maybe my eye will stop watering. And I would encourage you to just play with makeup. Let's just have fun with our makeup today, whatever that looks like for you and your makeup collection. So typically at the end of these videos, we will address what next month's BYOP theme is. I have not figured that out yet, but it is on the screen for you. So get to thinking about that now if you'd like to create something for next month, or if this month inspires you, or if any previous month inspires you, let's go for it. Let's have fun with our makeup. I want to thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Like I said, I'll have other creators, Kelly and Kara at the minimum, linked in the description down below. If you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed already, I'd love to have you as a new subscriber. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video, and I'll see you next time.